It's game day once again for the Arizona Coyotes. They face off against the Edmonton Oilers in the final game of a very long road trip. They'll be returning home later this week, but we're going to focus on the Edmonton Oilers on today's episode of the Locked On Coyotes podcast.
You're Locked On Coyotes, your daily podcast on the Arizona Coyotes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the show, everybody. I'm Robyn Leonio. Carl Pavlik is off today, so filling in for Carl is Jenna Ortiz of the Arizona Republic. Jenna, thanks for coming on for this show.
Yeah, of course. My pleasure.
I want to thank everyone for making Locked On Coyotes your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including on YouTube. And, of course, for our local listeners, you are available on the KPNX 12 News app. We got a great show for you guys on today's episode. It's a game preview. Arizona Coyotes versus the Edmonton Oilers. Final game of a long road trip. Jenna, we haven't been inside Mullet Arena since early November. I think you said, before we recorded, you said it was November 3rd was that last game. It just feels like it's been longer.
Way longer. I mean, I've seen Mullet around, but I just haven't been able to be inside and enjoy all that. And I miss, being amongst all the fans and getting right there, because where we sit is right by everybody in there.
Yeah, where we sit. Like it's funny because when I was in that last game that I was there as media against the Stars, I was like, this feels like how the Roadrunners were the last couple of years, just sitting right there, the fans just passing right behind us. And because we used to pre-COVID, we had a press box, and then they pushed us out to the the concourse. So it felt just like that.
Yeah, it's always fun when Coyotes are about to score a goal and you just know you're like, okay, I've got to stand up just so I can be able to see how they do it.
I know it's a different feeling for sure, but I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to finally getting back to Mullet. I probably won't be there this weekend because I gotta work a day job, but gotta love it. But glad that I think a lot of fans will be able to be back by the end of this week.
Oh yeah, I'm very excited. It's gonna be all Christmassy now because months pass. But I'm really excited to just be there again. I mean, you could hear all the action out there right in front of you. You can hear people every time a save is made. It's just like, ooh, ah, like all the different little noises. It's so great.
Yeah, that noise definitely stays. But let's focus. I know, we were all excited for Friday. Let's focus on tonight, Arizona Coyotes versus the Edmonton Oilers. Final game of their Western Canada portion of this road trip, and so far it hasn't gone their way. I mean, they've lost how many games in a row now? It's been a lot.
Yeah, even just the game against Calgary, that was so close. I mean, they were like this close to at least going into overtime and getting a point. It just didn't go their way. I mean, Nazem Kadri sniped it home, but maybe who knows if they could stick one out in the last game of the road trip.
I think that's kind of at least the hope. Usually during the end of a road trip of quote long road trips on usual NHL standards, teams get tired and they kind of just fizzle out at the end of a road trip, and then they are glad to go home. I told this to Carl earlier this week, and I'm not sure if my subscription to this theory varies from anybody else, if I'm just only a lone wolf in this one. But I'm just maybe because this is an unprecedented long road trip, that at this point in the last game they're so looking forward to coming home that they put out a really good a stronger effort than what we've seen. I mean, they've already put out strong efforts. They've looked competitive. but let's see if they can actually pull out a win.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that's really helped them with this super long 14-game road trip is that it's been sectioned off into chunks. So that's been helpful for them. Like they can go home for a little bit, even though, they've said before, like Shane Gostisbehere told us that when he goes home, basically puts his load of laundry in and then puts it out. And by the time he gets it all out, it's time to pack again and get back on the road. So it's been a little different, but mentally it's been helpful for them to at least see their loved ones for however many days they get.
Yeah, that's the most important part. But I'm like, we'll see exactly how, what kind of effort they put out. Edmonton is the strongest of the Western Canadian teams. So I think that pose even more of a challenge. I mean, like they struggled against the Canucks, against the Flames. They looked, a little bit more competitive. So maybe the theory is the better the Canadian team, the better they play against them.
I mean, we saw a win against the Maple Leafs, so
you never know at this point. Like the Coyotes have baffled me with some of the wins they get. They beat some of the good teams and they'll lose to some of the really bad teams, except, of course, with the exception of the Blue Jackets, who they actually, throat stomped, and that was like a really big win. But because the Blue Jackets are also a tanking team.
Yeah, but I mean, we saw the Coyotes beat the Hurricanes pretty good, so
that one too. Yeah, that gives you another example. Like
it's been a really interesting season for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that this team looks a lot more competitive, right? It's a lot more competitive than last year. Last year was a Coyotes team that just looked god awful. This is a team that it's like, okay, they look competent, they just make fundamental mistakes that end up biting them in the butt at the end of games.
Yeah, but it's been a lot more interesting. I mean, we're seeing more clutch goals and moments. Every now and then offense can kind of take a pause, but at least against Calgary, it was starting to come back when they needed the offense to come back. So that's a good start for them.
Absolutely. We're talking Arizona Coyotes versus Edmonton Oilers on today's episode of the Locked On Coyotes podcast. Jenna Ortiz of the Arizona Republic joins us on today's episode. We're going to keep talking about this, get to some picks of the game, as well as the keys to the game, players to watch out for, all that and more on this episode of the Locked On Coyotes podcast. I do want to let everyone know, though, that today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from football to basketball to soccer and esports, and, of course, hockey. We've got it all at BetOnline.net. And if you love sports podcasts, you can find those as well at BetOnline. We're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. Let's now move on to some other bits of this preview. Arizona Coyotes versus Edmonton Oilers tonight at around 7 p.m. over in Edmonton, Alberta. Let's get to, I guess, looking a little bit more into this game. Like I said, Edmonton is the best of these Western Canadian teams. What do you think it's going to take for this Coyotes team to try to win? We saw what they've been doing so far and trying to get more competitive, but let's get to some more specifics. What do you think? Some things that you think the Coyotes got to work
on? I mean, you have to address the elephant in the room with Edmonton, with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, two of the best players in the game by far. I mean, they're going to have to really lock down on them defensively. You have to limit them because, I mean, if you give them even just a little bit of a rebound or anything like that, they're going to drive it home. They're just really good. You cannot have breakdowns. Defensive breakdowns are just don't even think about it. Going against those guys, they just really, they have speed, they have skill, they have everything. So really it's locking down defensively and then also generating some good ozone time, which hopefully, I don't know.
Yeah, that's that's the biggest thing. Like, I was thinking about those two players. In my brain, I was thinking of the term like, don't even give him an inch, because like you give Connor McDavid any sort of room in any way, he's gonna find it. He is going to find it. Um, it's unbelievable, and especially against a team like the Coyotes, with the defense hasn't been up to par. Like, it's had its moments, but for the most part hasn't been up to par. Has been a lot of mistakes. I mean, look at what they did at the beginning of this year. I mean, it's been a long way coming since the beginning of the year, but like
Mm-hmm.
we're still not that far removed from a team that would continually allow like 6 goals or more in a game.
Yeah, it's definitely gotten better over time from what we've seen from the beginning. Um, Jacob Chikrin coming back in really helps a lot. It kind of gives them extra legs as well. They can be able to have like an extra defenseman on the bench for that stuff. But yeah, you don't want to, because Connor McDavid just has a knack for turning people into traffic cones. So you don't want to give him an inch at all.
Absolutely. I think another thing to pay attention to for the Coyotes, and it's something that Carl has mentioned time and time again whenever we do preview episodes, is penalties. This Coyotes team just makes fundamental errors that end up turning into bad penalties, whether it's, the that tripping call at the end of the Calgary game, or just a very simple too many men on the ice call from earlier this week. Like, just simple calls that you just cannot allow.
Yeah, that probably just comes with having a younger team. But for sure, I mean, we've seen that really kind of kill the momentum that was built up. Because Coyotes, soon they'll find momentum, and then just an ill-timed call will just cut that down. And then it doesn't always go well. Sometimes the penalty kill unit does work and you know, does kill it, but other times it's been really tough for them to kind of maintain that momentum.
Absolutely. And I think that's the thing too, because the Coyotes will have good moments. Like, they'll have like really good stretches of hockey. They'll look good. You'll see like maybe like a really good rush from Nick Bukestad, and then a penalty gets called, and then any momentum that they might have generated, even though they didn't score anything, any momentum they might have generated just dies right there off a penalty.
Yeah, I guess one good thing though that did happen against Calgary was when Fisher got the shorthanded goal. So that was pretty nice to see that, a few years ago they were really good at getting shorthanded goals. Every now and then it pops up again, but it's been a killer. I mean, it's been something that's just been happening all season long, of penalties really cutting down on their time.
I mean, I will give them credit though, because, and I mentioned this before, is they've come a long way from last year's team, in which still taking penalties, but had arguably like the worst power play, the worst penalty kill in the league, and it was the death of them. This time it's just like a simple mistake that ends up costing them. It's like a single point in the game.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this year's team and last year's team are definitely night and day. So I think some of the additions have really helped out this year, like with even just with the rookies coming in, like Matthias Michelli is just so much improved from last year. Dylan Gunther has really been able to have some good quality time out there. And then Nick Bustad, as you said, he's been really great so far as of late. Yeah, there's been a lot of good stuff going on.
Absolutely. Any other things in mind that you think would be like a key for Arizona to try to beat Edmonton? Because like we talked about it's going to be a challenge.
Yeah. I mean, from what I remembered, I don't think Edmonton's goaltending is top tier in the league, usually.
No, I don't think. I'm trying to remember who they had too, because they've
now they have
had
Jack Campbell. But
yes.
Edmonton's not always known for defense and goaltending because they're just really good on offense. They'll bury you, but if the Coyotes can get some quality ozone time and really pile the shots on them, or even get the power play out there, and just capitalize on Edmonton's mistakes, then that could really help them out and just kind of give them a chance.
Absolutely. That definitely makes sense. Now let's move on to I guess one more bit on here is players to watch out for. And I mean, you kind of already mentioned two players who have from Edmonton. Absolutely. I mean, if you're not paying attention to those two players, are you even watching the right game? But for Arizona's side, who in your mind needs to have an impact game tonight?
Oh my goodness. I mean, anytime Clayton Keller gets firing on all cylinders, it's a good game for the Coyotes. He always gives them a chance to win, whether he's assisting on a key play or he's scoring on his own. He's definitely done a lot of facilitating this year. But anytime he's doing well, they can do well.
No, that absolutely. I think, I think it's been said multiple times that, Clayton Keller kind of helps instill a lot of life in this team. Like when he does well, the team does well. But, I want to pay attention personally to Jacob Chychrun, as, he's starting to heat up a little bit more. He's looking great, getting back in it defensively. And, for the sake of the Coyotes gaining some momentum, and for the sake of him boosting up his trade value, because that's also the major focus of this season, is when, not if, but when Jacob Chychrun gets traded.
Yep. And you hear it a lot, especially when they play against teams that are buyers. There's a lot of, chatter from fans who are like, okay, well, here's Jacob's audition for our team or XYZ, And so, yeah, Chychrun's he's really made an impact so far coming back from injury. I mean, he was out for 8 months, and now he's getting his scoring pace back and really playing a lot of good minutes.
I think it really helps, who he gets paired up with. Because I think at the beginning of last year, I think he did have a hard time adjusting to the new system and the new pairing, which I think a lot of people paid attention to. It's wait, this is a whole different Jacob Chychrun. And then now it's okay, this is the Chychrun we're used to.
Yeah. Last year was definitely a rough start for him. Just it was rough because, I mean, you went from the year before when he was under Rick Tocchet and he had his career season, and then he had an injury, and then it just kind of was a different player last year. But yeah, he's coming back to where he's supposed to be.
Yeah, and we're glad for it, and we'll obviously gonna be glad to see him get play as well as he can in the at least that last bit, his last however many games with the Arizona Coyotes, until he does finally get traded. But we'll see when that happens and who that is too. There's still a lot of question marks on that side. But what we're going to do, though, is we are going to continue this preview. Arizona Coyotes versus Edmonton Oilers. We're going to get to our picks of the game in just a moment. I do want to thank everyone once again for making Locked On Coyotes your first listen today. Be sure to check out your second listen, Locked On Sports Today. From the games that matter most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today is available on this app, on YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. let's now move on to my favorite segment of every pregame episode and taking a look at the picks of the game, courtesy of our friends at Bet Online. Taking a look at the odds, and I'm going to go ahead and go to the sports book over here. Take a look at what the odds are. Arizona Coyotes are 1.5 underdogs, with the Edmonton Oilers favored at around -280. Total points between both teams at 6.5. So a little bit higher than normal. It's usually at six dead even. Now 6.5. I want to know what you think. You think the Coyotes can make it within a 1-goal game on this one? You think it's gonna get, we're gonna see an absolute shootout of a game? What do you think?
If they could get something going early, then it could be a 1-goal game. But it all just depends on how they start, I think, because if you let Edmonton run up on you, just get all the shots on them, get pucks in deep, all that. If you let them run up on you, then Edmonton can just run away with this, and then the morale's low, and it's just harder to go back from that. But if they can at least get something going early, then it could be 1-goal game. So
I think there definitely is something to be said about the Coyote starts, because if you see them with a really good start, that really sets the momentum for the rest of their game. I'll turn back to the last home game, because I think that a lot of us saw how that was. It was within 30 seconds. It just completely collapsed for Arizona, and we're just yep, we know exactly what kind of game we're gonna see. So if Arizona can have a good start, and I'm not gonna say that they're more than just the first 5 minutes, the first 10 minutes of the period, they need to have at least as much going, because that and that goes offensively and defensively. Have enough of offensive zone pressure, and going back to what we said defensively, just don't give Connor McDavid or Leon Draisaitl an inch, because the moment you do, that's when it's going to go back the other way.
Yeah, and as you mentioned earlier against Columbus, that was probably one of the better starts we've seen from the Coyotes, and you know how that turned out. So just getting there super early can really be beneficial for everyone.
Absolutely. I personally think that despite all that, I still think the Coyotes are going to have a hard time making this a 1-goal game, especially given the who they're up against and the talent on the defense for Arizona. Nothing against what they have. I love Chikrin and I love Gostisbehere, but I think there's still a major talent mismatch when you're going up against some of the best talent in the world on offensively in Edmonton. Although I don't think this game is going to go over that 6.5 total that our friends at Bet Online has it. I'm going to give you my final score. I'm going to say the Edmonton Oilers are going to take this one 4-2.
It's a good one.
What do you got?
Oh my goodness. Maybe it'll just be slightly chaotic and say 5-4.
5-4. I can appreciate that. I love high scoring games.
No defense, no, all offense. No. Who knows? I mean, there's definitely tons of potential for it to be a high scoring game. Again, with those two players, and then other guys are really finding their way. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's definitely reasons to be hopeful on that side and to look at the offense, because I think the Coyotes do have a good offense too.
They do.
So just I think sometimes they just get unlucky and they can't score more than 2, but other times they can go on all cylinders. Like the game they had against Carolina. Like that was a
Yeah.
perfect example.
Yeah. And I mean, just again, the early success of Matthias Michelli, he's one of the best rookies out there right now. That's been really helpful for them. It's been kind of a surprise, but also a really just good step for them. As long as they get people like him working, doing what they can, if they can get special teams going again, get the power play unit, who knows?
Absolutely. I'm going to allow you to also to, if you want to, give any other crazy prediction you think might happen in this game. Like, just something that's like, I think, like an example, like based off your skills, like I think like Matthias Michelli gets a hat trick or anything like just absolutely crazy like that probably won't happen, but just like, you know what? Full send on it.
Sorry about that. I think there will be a delay of game caused by the mascot.
I love that. I absolutely love that. Those are like that would be absolutely fun to watch. Absolutely fun to watch.
It'll be caused by,
Jen, it's that.
It'll be caused by Hunter, the mascot. That's his name.
Honestly, though, I feel like if there's a delay again that caused by a mascot, I think it would be him
Or Bowie.
Maybe Gritty too, but
Oh my gosh.
I love trash. Like joking about mascots, but. Anyways, we're getting ready to we got getting close to running out of time. Jenna, I appreciate you coming on. Where can our listeners find you and your work?
Yes, so I am at the Arizona Republic, so you can go to azcentral.com. That's where Coyotes coverage is. I'm also on Twitter. I think it's below. So I did the wrong hand, but yeah, for sure. You can.
Awesome. Once again, appreciate you coming on. That's going to be it for today's episode of the Locked On Coyotes podcast. If you like what you heard, don't forget to leave a 5-star review, to comment, subscribe if you have yet to already. We're available everywhere you get your podcasts, including on YouTube. Don't forget to interact with us on social media. We're on Facebook, facebook.com/lockedoncoyotes, and on Twitter at LO_Coyotes. I am personally at Robyn_Leano. That's Robyn with the Y_LEANO. Interact with us, ask a question you might have. We might answer right back or on a future episode of the Locked On Coyotes podcast. Thanks again, everyone, for listening to today's episode. Hope you guys are staying safe out there. Hope you guys are staying healthy. And don't forget to howl on.